Hello and welcome. It's Adina from the Immigrant Finance Podcast. We are so excited to have you here. Let me introduce myself for a second. I am an immigration attorney who's been practicing for nearly 10 years. I'm also an accredited financial counselor and a financial and business coach specializing in empowering immigrant families really move from surviving to thriving and build wealth and live to their fullest potential. I got involved in this work from a unique experience where I am actually not an immigrant myself, but my husband is. And I have gone through with him the whole experience and journey of what it looks like to come to this country and know nothing about finances and have no resources and what that can do to you personally and as a family. And what happened for us was Mal came here in 2013. And when he came, we really struggled about money for several years. And even as an immigration attorney, I couldn't find any information out there about how immigrant families could navigate the financial system. I didn't know whether he could have a bank account or a credit card or invest, or whether he'd be able to have a mortgage or retirement fund someday as we thought about growing our lives together. And this was really hard and it caused a lot of anxiety and stress and overwhelm for us. We spent about the past 10 years really obsessively studying the intersection of the immigration system and the financial system and learning how they really work together, how people can navigate it. And first started sharing about what we were learning in 2018 on our website at immigrantfinance.com, which we'd love for you to check out. We've got a ton of free, awesome resources that can be helpful up there. And so once we started this website and started blogging about this topic and really seeing there was nothing out there on the whole internet, we knew that we had something that was helping people, and we knew that we needed to take that very seriously and expand it. So we have since grown the platform where we've now got this podcast, our YouTube channel, a ton of social media education content out there. You can check us out on various platforms. We've got a free Facebook group. People can hang out and check out some of our trainings. And for those who are looking for more support, we have our signature Immigrant Finance School program where we really focus on helping immigrants learn how to do everything financially, regardless of their financial or immigrant situation. And we help people make massive financial shifts so they can move from surviving to thriving, to move from the paycheck to paycheck situation with no plan to having a plan to create lifetime wealth, and to really move forward their goals and thrive. This is something we are extremely passionate about doing, and it is our act of service to the world. And we hope to see more and more immigrants who are taking these steps, who are supporting each other and growing this amazing community so that we can see more immigrants building wealth. Our goal is to, over the next 5 years, help 1,000 immigrant families invest over $10 million together. So join us in this journey. Let us know about what steps you're taking to move forward your finances. Share out these episodes, share out our posts so that we can get the word out and encourage your family and friends to take steps to become more financially empowered, because this world would look very different and our immigration laws and system would look very different. And frankly, the people who vote and determine the future of this country would look very different if more immigrants were financially stable and strong and building wealth. So thanks for joining us on the ride, and we can't wait to connect with you. Always love hearing from our audience. So shoot us a message on Instagram at immigrant.finance. And we can't wait to connect. Enjoy the episode and take care. Hello, everyone. Greetings. It's Adina here from Immigrant Finance with our guest today, Jane Mepham. Welcome, Jane. How are you doing?
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Oh, I'm so excited to have you and get to connect. I've seen your great work and really looking forward to learning more and sharing it with our community.
Thank you.
Yeah, and just a brief background on Jane for you all, and then I'll turn it over to her to share more. So Jane is the founder and owner of Elgon Financial Advisors, which is an independent virtual fee-only registered investment advisor in Austin, Texas. Being virtual means she works with clients from all over the country. Her firm works with foreign-born families and immigrants here for a short time on visas or here for the long haul, such as citizens and green card holders. This is a second career for her after spending over 17 years in the high tech space. She's a keen writer and is an active contributor to the Streets Retirement Daily Next Gen column. She has been featured in other publications like the ThinkAdvisor, MSN, Moneygeek, Authority Magazine, among others. She is a keen runner, and most weekends you're likely to find her running the Austin roads and trails with the goal of qualifying for the Boston Marathon this year. So cool! It's a fun
Thank you.
thing to share. Yeah, awesome. Great. Yeah, well, tell us a little bit about how you got into this whole financial space and a little bit more about what you do, please.
Oh, absolutely. And what might maybe help is if I go back a couple of years before I got into the business. So I'm an immigrant in like a lot of folks. I came here to go to school because, our parents believe the US has some of the best schools, and I'm not going to argue with that. And so I came out here on a student visa, learned a lot, talked to, and of course, this is the short version of it, talked to as many people as I could that were willing to talk to me. Figured out I needed to get an H-1B visa, and I was very lucky to do that. And what happened with my very first job, I remember they talked to us about 401ks and how you can start saving for retirement. And Adina, I had honestly no clue what I was doing or what I was supposed to do with the money. And the part that I remember is just being really frustrated and just being sad, thinking, I got these great academic credentials. I've landed a job in this country. I got a great opportunity to start saving money, but I've no idea what to do with this thing they just gave me. And I didn't even know about the IRAs and all the other vehicles that we have to save. And so that really is what got me started on the journey. And what I decided to do was, I'm going to learn everything. And I literally mean everything I could about money and how money works in the context of the US, compared to where I was coming from. And, got on the websites. They didn't have as much information then as they do now. Subscribed to a couple magazines. But the more I got into it, the more I realized though a lot of other folks around me that had the same questions, things like, okay, I'm on this type of visa. What can I do in terms of saving? What can I invest in? Can I buy a house? And right now, some of those may seem a little basic just because I'm beyond that. But that really is what got that fire going in me to say, there's got to be something else I can do as far as helping our community, really the immigrant community. And I'm also sure the people around us. And so, fast forward, I ended up getting a green card. I became a citizen, but that never went away. And a couple of years later, a couple of years ago, I finally decided this was it. I'm going to jump into this business. I'm going to jump into this field. And I'm really going to make it my life's work. And this is how we end up with Elgon Financial Advisors.
That is amazing. I love that story. Thank you for sharing. And it resonates a lot. Although I'm not an immigrant, I told you, I think a little bit how my husband is, and I went through this with him. And it was
Right,
the same thing. Like we had no idea what any of this stuff meant.
right,
And there was nothing for immigrants about how
right.
immigrants could do this stuff, right? So it led to having to, commit to learning it personally like you did,
hmm hmm
and then wanting to share it with others and help it because we need to get this information out. So yeah, did your experience motivate you to want to help other people with it?
Oh, absolutely. And the other thing I also realized, the more I learned, the more I got into it, what would happen is I'd go home, and again, let's use the example of the 401k, and I've studied this, and I come to work and I start talking to people around me, and I also noticed even the folks around me who were born here, a lot of them also didn't have the knowledge. And at some point, it got to the
Right.
point where it's like, oh, yeah, if you got a money question, just go talk to Jane in Cube 20 or whatever she is. And so that really got me like, I guess we're not really teaching people finances, which is, it just breaks my heart when I think of the opportunities that we have. The other thing that really got me moving and motivating me was, again, as an immigrant, when I'd ask questions and people would give me answers, I would ask my friends, or if I ask my coworkers, they would give me the information based on their experiences. And nobody was talking to
Hmm.
me about, when you got one foot in this country and you have another foot in the other country, there's some technicalities, you need to be thinking about. You need to be filing your taxes a little differently, that kind of thing. So that really, and every time that came up, I kept thinking, I gotta help people. I really, really want to help people, as part of also helping myself. So yeah, I think I've really made it my mission, and it's something I wake up every day really excited about. What else can I learn? What else can I teach people out there?
That is so incredible. And I definitely share that excitement. I mean,
Hmm.
I don't think I've heard of anyone else besides you who's a registered investment advisor specifically for immigrants. Have you
Hmm.
come across anybody else?
There's a few other folks in the community. So what happens
Hmm.
is there's obviously a lot of regulations, and to
Right.
register my farm, obviously I had to go kind of jump through hoops to get this done. I did
Hmm.
actually go back to school, got my 65, got my CFP. So
Hmm.
quite a bit of education involved. And then once you're ready, you can go work with big farms. But I really didn't want to do that, because every time I talked with the farms, um, they really didn't want to go into that specific niche. So what we've had
Hmm.
to do is say, I'm going to be, like I said, fee only independent. And because this is my farm, I pretty much can work with anybody I want to work with. So I do have that freedom. So I do know, like I said, a few other advisors. There's a gentleman I know that works with folks from, I think, Australia. There's another guy I know
Mm.
in New York. So a few of us are coming up for sure.
Yeah.
But I still think it's a niche, it's a space that we could still use more people in this space for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, we definitely need more people doing this work. And so I'm so grateful to learn about your work. And for people who are new to hearing the term registered investment
Mhm, mhm.
advisor and the Series 65, could you explain a little bit what that means?
Yeah, so when you finally decide, okay, here I am, I really want to start my own investment. This is what it's called, an investment firm. Registered investment advisor is the firm that you create, registered by the state. So you go through all the state regulations, to be able to give financial advice, to be able to give investment advice. So this is what I've done, working with the state of Texas to get this firm, this entity registered. So the good thing is, when you work with a registered investment advisor, because one of the things I know as immigrants, there's always that fear of, is this person going to be honest? Are they going to give me the right advice? Are they fiduciary? That's almost one thing you're almost guaranteed by law and regulation. I have to be a fiduciary. I have to make sure I'm giving you advice that's specific to you for your interest, not my interest. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And
Okay.
so I think something to be helpful for people to know is
Oh,
when with a
sure.
registered investment advisor, you can actually like manage their investments for them, right? And purchase the investments on their behalf.
That's correct. I can I
Yeah.
can I can I can manage the investments for them, and so I actually use one of the big firms, TD Ameritrade. So let's say you're a client or you're a prospect, and you come to me and we talk, and you and I decide, yeah, you do want to invest some money. Yes, with this registration, I can help you invest your money. Your money is always held by TD Ameritrade, but yes, I'll help you figure out what are the best investments to get into, what are the best, what I think of as vehicles, what are the different savings accounts that you can get into. And the way I do it in my case, I always keep your immigration background in perspective, because there's some things we can do, there's some accounts we can open, and there's some accounts we can't open, again, depending on where your status is. You know what I'm saying? Where your even visa
Right.
status. Yeah. So I do feel that's something that's been lacking, somebody that will come in and just look at things through an immigrant's eyes to say, yeah, there's some things we can do, there's some things we can't do according to the law when it comes to investments. And so this is a space that I'm currently playing in, and
Yeah.
it's fascinating.
That's so incredible. I know I've studied a lot of that too, and it is
Hmm.
complicated, and a lot of people need advice in that area. There's a lot
Yeah.
of intersection with immigration law.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So just to back up a little bit, now that
Mhm.
you've told kind of your story and what you do, in terms of like your experience with immigration,
Mhm.
how has that informed your view of money and finances? Like, how has that played a role?
So, how much time do we have?
I know, right?
Yeah, so the thing that I find, and it's something I've always been very interested in when it comes to psychology. You're probably familiar with the term money scripts, how you grew up, the things you learned about money growing up. Does that ring a bell?
Mm. I
And
haven't heard
so,
that term, but definitely
okay.
studied a lot how what you learned growing up affects you.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that creates, or that forms your manuscript, what you learned growing up. So one of the things that I find is growing up, my parents they were really good about teaching us about money. And now looking back, I'm like, thank you, parents, for what you taught us. They taught us how to budget. And one thing they always talk to us a lot, and I've actually written about that on my blog, is um, things like if you want to get something, you need to put in some of your money into this thing that you want to get. My dad called it cost sharing. So I come in with that mindset of you work hard, and if you work hard, you're likely to get to where you want to go to. I also come in with a mindset of I know we need to have an emergency fund, but just coming from, let's say, from where I came from to come here, that's a risky move, if you know what I mean. And so I
Yeah.
come in with that mindset of there's a lot that I can do now that I'm here that maybe people who were born in the US may not be willing to do. So that whole mindset of I'm gonna keep working as hard as I can. I was taught if I work really hard, I can make it. And so I find that does inform some of what I do. So I'll give you an example. If I'm talking with a prospect and they tell me they're thinking of, they have this big project that they're thinking of doing or building or something like that, my first answer to them is, I don't think you can do that. I'm all about, yeah, let's see what we can do to help you do that, because I know the mindset they're bringing in, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Mindset is everything.
It, it,
Everything
it
with
is.
finance.
It is.
But yeah, like if
It,
you
it,
can see it and believe it and like are willing to
yes.
do the work, anything is possible.
It,
That's the hard part though, is like getting to that point.
anything is possible. And so when I work with folks, we actually spend a lot of time up front really talking about what a possible future look like for you. And I'll say,
Hmm.
let's just dream together about what this thing could look like. I know we're here. I know what kind of visa we're on, because that's always something I'll keep in mind. I know we
Right.
may have to wait a couple of years before we do some things, but let's dream and think, what are the things you'll be able to do in future. And I'm a big believer in investing in human capital. So it doesn't mean we
Hmm.
need to save the money right now. Maybe we need to take that, improve ourselves, start something, and then we can start heading into the future. And I do find,
Hmm.
for sure, immigrants, I mean, they're really hardworking, and a lot of times saying things can be done sometimes is what gets people motivated to kind of keep moving along.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a second because that's something I see a lot as well with our community. Like people work really
Hmm.
hard and they know how to work hard, and that's not the issue. Like many people are
Hmm.
working two or three jobs,
Yes.
and they know how to make money, right? Like
Hmm. Hmm.
there's a big need for jobs right now.
Hmm. Hmm.
The issue is more like, well, there's a lot of challenges, obviously, but
Oh,
um,
yes.
like learning how to hold on to that money and have
Hmm.
it start working for you
Correct.
and have the money be working instead of you, right? And like
W-
how
w-
to build something where like you're the boss instead of the employee.
and I love what you just said. So I think of it as having your money work smart for you. Because you're right. Um, Working hard, 2, 3 jobs, that's never been an issue. And so what I'll say to people is, okay, this is where we are. You're working 2, 3, 4 jobs, but again, let's dream about what the future could be, right? What else could we be doing with this money? The question is, what's the ultimate goal? Are we working so hard just so we can spend the money, or just do the things that we do normal life kind of thing? And so I really have people focus on what else, what's the ultimate goal, where do you want to be in 3, 4, 5 years? And once we figure out what that vision looks like, then it gets a little bit easier to say, okay, you're working 2, 3 jobs, we can use the third job for this thing that you want to start in future, this business you want to start in future. I think of starting Elgon Financial Advisors. That was a huge step for me. But again, it's
Oh yeah.
knowing, it's knowing what it is that you want to achieve in future. And if what I'll say to people is, if we go down 5 years, forwards, you look back 5 years, you really don't want to be in the same space. And if there's any way we can help you move
Mhm.
forwards, come on, let's do it, right? We can do this
I love
thing.
that. I love that focus you're doing, and it just shows it's such a testament to how financial planning is often like life planning and life
It
coaching.
is. It is.
All right, I mean, money's just made up to begin with, so it's really about like how do you want your life to be, and like let's
Hmm.
use finances as a tool and strategies to
Yes,
get you there. So I love that you're pushing people to like think about what they really want and like why are you working these three jobs, right? And like
exactly.
yeah, that's brilliant.
Awesome. Thank you. I love it.
Yeah, I'm on the same page. It's so important. And yeah, what other thoughts do you have you want to share when it comes to the immigrant community with how people could be thinking differently about money to be in that position where they can really let themselves feel free to dream in the first
Hmm.
place and believe what's possible and then actually take steps to make it happen.
So the first thing is, as you and I know, obviously there are challenges with whatever the immigration status. That's probably saying a lot. So
Right.
let me give you an example. So when I first came in, and then I'll go into my point. When I first came in, and I was on the F1, the student visa, I remember, like I said, actually talking to an immigrant attorney and trying to find out what do I need to do so I can stay in this country? What do I need to do to move on to the next step? Because again, looking forward, I knew I really wanted to stay in this country and I wanted to make it as easy as possible for myself. So I knew I wanted to become a citizen. And they talked me through that whole immigrant journey with the visas and all that stuff. And what I did was I went out again, I talked to everybody that was willing to talk to me to say, what do I need to move to the next step? And so for me, that was information gathering so I could understand what was possible within my situation. So that's always the first thing I'll say to people. Okay, this is your status today. What is it that we need to do initially to get you to the next status? So something as simple, like I said, F1 visa going to H1, that opens a whole lot of doors, for example, right? Obviously, when
Right.
you become a permanent, a green card holder, that opens even more doors. So that's the first thing. What do we need to do to get you to that point? So
Hmm.
education, 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 education. That's the first thing. And then as
Yeah.
we're figuring all that out, what can you do within your visa status as far as finances are concerned? And one of the things you need to watch out for, here's another example I'll give you. We all need to file taxes. We know that, right?
Hmm.
Um, but for example, as an F1 student, you don't need to be using the regular tax form. There's a separate form that you should be using, what they call the non-residency form. So again, let's understand the things that we need to be doing. So again, it's a lot of education. And if you look at my blog, I write a lot about that. Like your immigration status is not the same as your tax residency status. So
Right.
let's understand all these things. So education, education, education. And once we
Yeah.
come out on the other end, we have a very clear list of here are the things I know I can do financially. Now, let's start doing these things. And again, I'll keep talking about the future, the vision, the goal. Let's see what we need to do to get you there. Because again, I don't want people to start building something here and then a couple of years down the road, because of some tax issue or some estate planning issue, they find out they can't really take advantage of that. So that's always my thing: education, education, education. Talk to folks that have this info and learn as much as you can. And then let's apply our immigrant mindset, working hard, but work smart. Sorry, I know that was a little bit
Exactly.
long-winded, but
No, that's perfect. So I'm hearing, blend the strategy around your immigration planning and what type of visa and status you want to try to
correct.
obtain,
Yep.
with also the taxes and the finances, and then shifting to learning how to have your money work for you.
Correct. Absolutely. Absolutely.
And is the main way that you help people, or that you recommend having them work? Well, okay, why don't you tell us what is the main way you think people can have their money work for them? I was gonna guess, but I'll let you share.
No. So there's different ways. Assuming we've met everything. Actually, I think I wrote something on steps to take. So the first thing is, obviously, we make sure you're protected, because we know how in this country we tend to live paycheck to paycheck. That's like the basic stuff, right? Let's make sure if something
Yeah,
happens to your job, emergency fund, that kind of thing. And then the next thing is, let's start investing in the stock market. And the way we do the
right.
investments, obviously, there's all these different vehicles that I kind of alluded to when I talked about, like the 401k and all the different savings accounts that we can start putting our money into. And you're doing a fantastic job with this, is what businesses can we start? Like the online business stuff that you're doing, I think that's fantastic. And
Oh, thank you.
I'll be like, yeah, let's talk to Adina about some of these things that we can start. You also have things like investing in real estate, but again, that I'll take that as client by client basis.
Yeah,
But yeah, to me, it's let's diversify as much as we can. And we're not just
yeah,
diversifying within the stock market, which obviously is a big deal right now, but it's also what else can you start? What else can you do that will start
right.
helping you make money? Does that make sense?
Yes, I completely agree with everything you're saying. And for people listening, just to emphasize how important it is what Jane is saying. When you look at wealthy people, they're not just saving in a bank, and they're not
Right.
just investing in their 401k. They have multiple strategies. They've got their investments in the stock
Mm-hmm.
market. They've got businesses, or they're investing in other businesses. They've got real estate. So this word diversification, I think you just said,
Mm-hmm.
is all about having multiple different streams of income, so that, like,
Correct.
you're reducing the risk. If one of them doesn't work out, you've got two more, right? So that's really where we need to be moving, is not just not only starting to invest when you're the first in your family, but also thinking about these other strategies too. So thank you so much for highlighting that. It's
Oh,
incredibly
thank you.
important.
Thank you. Although the other thing I do say, like if I get people who already have great jobs, and again, this is part, where you really talk to people up front to kind of understand where they're coming from and their mindset. I also know, starting businesses may not be for everybody, and that's okay too, right?
Correct. Yes,
So
that's
I don't
right.
want people to feel bad if they can't do that. But again, it's just showing them here are the possibilities. And I get it, if you can't do it, you can still make a great living, especially if you got a great job, right? Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, So I do want to point that out.
That's very true. The only thing I would add is I think sometimes that belief can hold people back, in the sense
Mm-hmm.
of, like,
Mm-hmm.
you don't have to start a full out business where you're the CEO
True.
and have, you can have a little side hustle where you're applying the same skill you do in your day job,
Hmm.
but also doing it for one or two clients on the weekends so
Hmm.
that you can
Hmm.
have extra money, right? Like there's different ways you can have businesses, or you can do babysitting or Uber Eats, driving,
Yeah,
or
that's true.
right, like whatever, like just be creative, because I do see a lot of people feel like they don't have, it's not possible for them, or that they could
Oh
never be
no,
a
it's
business owner.
possible.
I mean, I certainly thought that. I've worked in nonprofits for 15 years.
Yeah.
Immigrant finance that I have with my husband is the first business I've ever been involved in.
Oh, good
you
for
know?
you.
Thank you. But like it's, there's this idea that to be a business owner, you have to be a certain personality or a certain type of
Mm.
person. And like it's really just about sharing your gifts and your skills in different ways, I think, for people.
And maybe what we need to do, and I'm just thinking about this as you're saying it, when we say business, we're not talking this huge enterprise. It's just
Right.
something outside of, let's say, your work, and you start small to your point. And I love what you just said. It's sharing your knowledge and sharing your skill set. And if it's something you enjoy, chances are you're likely to make some money on it. I love that. I love that.
Yeah, and then you can just like save more, pay off debt more, invest
Hmm.
more. But
Hmm.
I really love pushing this idea with the immigrant community because,
Hmm.
well, first of all, why is this the strongest economy in the world? It's because of immigrants who are entrepreneurial,
Absolutely. Yes. Yes.
right? Like over half of the Fortune 500 companies have been started by immigrants or their
Hmm.
family members. Um, but also like I think it's really important for immigrants to be able to start seeing themselves as people who can generate income on their own and not
Hmm.
just be sources of labor.
Hmm. Hmm. And to
Yeah.
your point, there's this stat I love throwing out. 25%, I think, of businesses, and if I don't get it right, I'll find it and send it to you after our conversation. 25%, I think, of businesses are started by immigrants. Right
I'm
now,
not surprised.
25% of the big companies that you can think of, like in Silicon Valley, things, companies like Google, those kind of companies, they're all
Hmm.
started by immigrants. So
Yeah.
there's something there that we really want to be taking advantage of. And another thing I read the other day, this gentleman was talking about, you go out, you work, you got a job, your day job, which is fine, but you really need to be thinking about investing in yourself. And to me, I think what we're talking
Yeah.
about is that whole investing in yourself. So absolutely.
Yeah. Can you share a little bit more on that topic?
So when I think about, I'll go out, I'll work for XYZ company for 20 years. And let's say thinking of an example where I'm doing all this tech stuff, but I'm also really good at writing, for example. My company is not investing in me as a writer, but they are paying me my dues for what I'm putting in, right? On the other hand, I can start doing some writing, and I'm just talking writing because I love to write, and start doing, let's say, freelance writing, start investing in that side of me, which is Jane
Hmm.
complete from the company. And so 10 years down the road, this Jane me side probably should have grown to be bigger than Jane the employee. Does that make sense?
It does make sense because that is the first thing I did was freelance
Okay,
writing.
good.
When we were struggling a lot with money because my husband had
Yeah,
just immigrated here
yeah.
and we were having challenges with his visa and employment, and there was a period he lost his job and I was
Mm,
pregnant, and we had to figure out. So yeah, actually applying a skill I had from my job of writing to do freelance writing was like the
nice.
first way we were able to start building some financial stability, like through having an extra income stream. But
Hmm.
in terms of like just the importance of investing in yourself, like
Hmm.
besides starting a business, like how else would you recommend people can invest in
Hmm.
themselves in addition to investing in the stock market or a business?
So here's another example. You're probably aware of this account called a Roth IRA account. It's an investment
Of
account, right?
course, yes.
Okay, good. So let's say somebody comes to me, somebody young, and they tell me they have two options. They want to invest, let's say it's 2K in the stock market in the Roth account, and we know this money is going to grow tax free and good things are going to happen on that end. Or they're thinking of taking this 2K, going out and taking this course that they saw somewhere, and this course will actually allow them to get a pay raise at their current job. Without a doubt, I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
just come out and say, I know you want to start investing in the stock market, but let's invest in you. I guess you call it human capital. Let's
Mm-hmm.
invest in you this 2K. You end up getting a pay raise. And what that means, we got to be thinking 3-4 years down the road. When they
Right.
do the future pay raises, they're going to be basing it on the newer number. So overall, you're going to end up ahead. So it's always thinking about what can I do in terms of improving myself, improving my human capital. You're right, where I'm not necessarily starting a new job. So anything I can learn, any courses I can take. And of course, right now there's a ton
Mm-hmm.
of things out there. We kind of have to be careful, but it's
Mm-hmm.
constantly
Mm-hmm.
improving yourself. What you're reading, what can you really do to improve your current skill set? And then go from
Yes.
there.
Couldn't agree more again. Everything you're saying, I'm right with you.
Awesome.
Yeah, I mean, this is another thing wealthy people know so well that they understand like the most valuable asset they have is their ideas, their
Correct.
skills, right? So they're constantly investing in themselves. That's why a lot of wealthy people you see have like multiple coaches,
Yes.
masterminds, they're going to conferences all the time to network. Like they get this that like this is the number one thing that's going to help them make more money.
Hmm.
And with that example you just gave, not only is the person going to get that pay raise that year, but every other year after that.
Correct. Based on the new number, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's so important. I'm really glad that you're incorporating that, and thank you for sharing that with our audience. Is there anything else you would share as maybe like the number one thing you wish you knew about finances when you were first starting out in this country that you would want to share with others?
So when I go back to my first 401k, I wish I knew now what I know then.
Yeah.
But obviously, I don't think I don't know that I would have known it. So it would have been nice to have known some of these things. But then when I think about the experiences that I've had, um, I don't know that they'll be as rich as they are right now. So
Mm,
my thing is, I wish I'd known some of those things. I didn't, and that's okay. And that's what led me to this point. And so
hmm.
my thing is, just keep educating yourself, keep reaching out to the right people. Don't sit in your corner and just, feel miserable. There's definitely a lot of help and a lot of opportunities for us out there. We just have to be willing and be brave enough to come out and kind of grab it.
I love it. It sounds like you're saying kind of like embrace the journey.
Absolutely. You have to embrace the journey. You have to enjoy it, even though sometimes it doesn't seem enjoyable. But
Hmm.
to me, it's like learn from every experience that comes your way, which is why I'm thinking I don't know that I'll change anything because I feel like I've learned from every experience. Take the good, obviously throw out the
Yeah,
bad and move on.
yeah. Yeah, that's so valuable. Thank you so much, Jane, for all this very valuable advice you're sharing with our audience. Where can people find you, connect with you, learn more about your work?
Oh, absolutely. Thank you. So if they go to my website, elgonfa.com, elgonfa.com, that's sort of like the hub of everything that I do. They can also subscribe to a newsletter, and I think maybe we can include a link in that. Um,
Yeah, of course. We'll link everything
okay.
below.
I'm also on
Mhm.
Twitter where I talk about money and running, Elgon Financial. And you can also find me on LinkedIn, Jane Mepham, and Facebook, Elgon Financial. So any of those places.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for your time, and we really appreciate again all of this generous advice you've shared.
And thank you so much, Adina, for having me and for the work that you're doing. I do keep an eye on everything you're doing, and I'm always like clapping over here,
Oh,
saying,
thank
"Yeah,
you.
that's awesome. Let's keep doing more of this." So thank you.
Oh, well, please let me know however I can support the great work you're doing too. We definitely need more people, fighting this fight and
Yeah.
building up, the knowledge base for
Thank
the
you.
immigrant community. Yeah, thank you, Jane.
Thank you.
Take care.
Okay, bye.
Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day to listen to the Immigrant Finance Podcast. And congrats to you for taking some time to invest in learning about finances. It is one of the most powerful steps you can take in your financial journey, is just carving out the space and the time to prioritize it. It all gets easier from there. If you found some value out of this episode, if you learned something, we would be so grateful if you could please share it with your friends or family. And also go ahead and subscribe on Apple Podcasts and follow on Spotify. It would really help us be able to reach and help more people. Those algorithms do make a difference. There's two ways you can also deepen your journey when it comes to finances with immigrant finance that we would love to invite you to think about. The first is to go and join our private free community group over on Facebook. It's called Building Generational Wealth for Immigrant Families. And you can check it out at facebook.com/groups/immigrant finance. There's a bunch of free prior trainings we've done under the tab guides. You will also be able to access future trainings that we have going forward and connect with other immigrants and their family members who are also focused on building wealth and building a better future for them and their families. The other way you can get started is by learning more about investing. Investing is one of the most powerful acts you can take to build wealth and to stop trading time for money and start building passive income and building wealth for the future. We have a free masterclass that is all about how immigrant families can get started investing, and you can check it out over at investingmasterclass.immigrantfinance.com. Thanks, and we hope you have a great rest of your day.